Welcome to Whisper of Haunted Waves. Tonight, we descend into a story whispered at sleepovers, repeated in hushed voices, and retold across generations. A story about fear lurking inside the walls of a quiet home, about sounds in the night that are too close, too real, too human. The Licked Hand, urban legend, a simple tale on the surface, yet its true origin is far darker than any campfire version you've ever heard. Our story begins, as it always does, with a girl alone at night. She lived in a small suburban house on the edge of town, the kind of place where houses sit close enough to share whisper, yet far enough that darkness fills the gaps between them. Her parents left for the weekend, leaving her with her dog for compania, loyal, gentle creature who slept on the floor beside her bed every night. As the house settled into silence, she locked the doors, checked the windows, and crawled under her blankets. Outside, the wind pressed against the house. The trees scraped the walls, and then a sound came from downstairs. A single, soft noise, like a footstep. She froze, but after a moment, it stopped. She told herself it was the wind, or the house settling, anything but what her imagination whispered. She reached down to the floor, and her dog, warm and friendly, licked her hand. Comfort, safety, assurance. She smiled in the dark, and sleep slowly pulled her under. But the sound returned. A faint shuffle from the hallway, a quiet thump near the kitchen. She sat up, heart racing. The world outside her room felt alive in a way she couldn't explain. She whispered her dog's name, reached down again, and once more, a wet tongue licked her hand. She relaxed. The dog was with her. Nothing was wrong. But something was wrong. Something was very, very wrong. This is where most versions of the legend begin and end with the horror twist. But to understand the true origin, we must go deeper into the layers hidden beneath folklore, into the shadows of real history. Because this chilling legend didn't appear out of thin air. It was born from real events, from real home intrusions, from real cases where people lived with a stranger inside their house without knowing. Throughout the 1960s and 1970s, newspapers across the United States reported a terrifying trend: intruders living secretly inside attics, crawl spaces or basements, surviving off the residents' food, slipping through the house only at night. Some were criminals, some were mentally unstable, some were simply people hiding from the world. And these intruders had a pattern. They moved when homeowners slept. They watched, they listened, they waited. One case from the late 1960s described a man living inside a family's attic for nearly 3 weeks. The family heard noises at night, but never investigated. They assumed it was pipes or animals. That man came down only when the house was silent, eating, wandering, sometimes even standing outside the bedroom doors. Another case in the early 70s involved a woman who swore she heard someone breathing in her house at night. Police found a man living behind the walls, a hidden crawl space, a mattress, personal items. He had been there for months. These real incidents created a new kind of fear of what can live unseen within your home. And from these cases, the Licked Hand story began to take shape. Back to our story. The girl, now deeply unsettled, tried to sleep again, but the house didn't let her. A soft scratching sound echoed from the bathroom. The faucet dripped, steadily, drip, drip, but louder than usual, as if something was moving near it. She whispered her dog's name again, reached down, another lick. Slowly she drifted back into restless sleep. But the night grew heavier, the air colder. Something in the house shifted. She woke again at dawn, relieved to see sunlight leaking through the curtains. She stretched, finally feeling safe. Then she walked to the bathroom, and stopped cold. The drip she heard last night wasn't from the faucet. It wasn't water hitting the sink. Hanging from the shower rod was her dog, lifeless. And written on the wall, in uneven letters, was a message: humans can lick hands too. But that is the legend. The fictional ending, the part designed to traumatize campfire listeners. The real origin is different and far scarier in its truth. Throughout the 70s, police discovered cases where intruders watched residents sleep. In one horrifying incident, a man crawled into a woman's room at night and sat on the floor beside her bed. She felt something touch her hand in the dark. She believed it was her cat. It wasn't. In another real case, a woman felt her dog licking her hand through the night, but her dog was locked outside. These were not legends. These were real reports seen in police archives and newspaper clippings across the US. And what made these incidents terrifying wasn't the paranormal, it was the human element. The idea that a stranger could enter your home, hide, live, and touch you while you sleep. The Licht Hand legend was a combination of these real events, a warning disguised as a horror story, a tale meant to remind people to check their locks, question strange noises, and never assume comfort in the dark. But here's where the story deepens, because over time, researchers uncovered similar folktales across Europe. Stories of intruders hiding under beds, stories of men who licked children's hands at night, stories of creatures imitating pets to deceive victims. These weren't connected by culture or language. These stories emerged independently, which means something older may be behind them. A primal fear. A fear humans have carried for thousands of years, the fear of being touched by something we cannot see. And so, the modern Licht Hand legend is not just a horror tale, it is a memory, a scar passed down through generations, a warning shaped by centuries of fear. Back to our girl, alone, trembling. In the film version of this story, she dies or screams or becomes the tragic victim of the urban legend. But the true origin doesn't end with blood or violence. It ends with fear. A fear so intense that it kept people awake for nights. A fear so universal that the story spread across the world. After discovering her dogafter, realizing the truth, she ran into the street, screaming for help. The neighbors called police, and what they found was worse than the girl imagined. They found evidence someone had been living in her home. Someone had been there for days, maybe weeks. Food missing, blankets disturbed, footprints in dust. The intruder was gone, but the evidence remained. A chilling reminder that sometimes the greatest horror is not ghosts or demons, it is other people. The legend of the Licht Hand survives because it touches something deep inside us. The fear of vulnerability, the fear of being watched, the fear of being touched in the dark by something that shouldn't be there. And whether the story ends in blood, or a police report, or lingering nightmares, one thing is certain. The Licht Hand reminds us that darkness inside a home is not always empty. Sometimes, someone, or something, waits for you to fall asleep. Thank you for watching Whisper of Haunted Waves. And remember, when you reach your hand down in the dark, be sure you know exactly what is licking it. Follow for more.